Don't you ever want to do anything exciting?
Like what?
I want a real adventure. We can go anywhere we want in the whole galaxy.
That was amazing!
Yeah.
You can see grand adventures even in a rotten galaxy like this.
We are not pirates!
Keep your blaster ready. Oh, we're pirates.
Yeah.
This is the Rebel Force Radio Skeleton Crew After Show.
Let's go!
All right, we are off. Brand new series to talk about. It all starts here. That's for my fellow Goonies fans out there. There are a lot of callbacks to the Goonies. A lot of callbacks to previous Star Wars as well. So that's right, a whole new storyline, all new characters. My gosh, it's a little daunting, but it's also very freeing. I found walking into this, the idea of doing this after show, and after meeting these characters and spending a couple episodes with them, feeling kind of, I don't know, a little more free than when you walk in doing something like The Acolyte, where you know you're going to be trapped under all of this new canon mythology, and does it actually make sense in context with the prequels and the originals and the sequels? And I don't feel like this show is fettered by that, at least not in the first couple of episodes. So definitely something freeing, but we're going to break it all down for you here on the Rebel Force Radio Skeleton Crew After Show, the premiere episode of RFR Skeleton Crew After Show. So looks like we got quite a few people joining us live. Appreciate that. Always great to have you live. So for those of you listening to this on delayed podcast, we do record these shows as a live stream on YouTube. You can check out all the details at rebelforceradio.com. Follow us on all of our socials, blah, blah, blah. We want to get right down to it. And by getting down to it, introductions in order. If you're new to the show, my name is Jason, and with me, as always, my good friend and yours from Chicago, Jimmy Mack.
Hey, Jason. Hey, Star Wars fans. Back for another after show, a new show, Skeleton Crew. And for once, when they say this is going to be a very different approach to Star Wars, they're not blowing smoke. I mean, this time is actually a genuinely different approach, a new approach, with the kids being center to the story, and of course totally removed from the galactic drama going on in the background. None of that is ever even on the table as far as these first two episodes are concerned. So like you, Jason, I'm kind of relieved we don't have all that canon and mythology weighing us down yet. I mean, there may be some things that pop up here and there, but I kind of like that about this show, is that anyone can plug into it with like the most rudimentary knowledge of Star Wars and the terminology and things like that. You can plug right into it and probably enjoy it as much as a hardcore fan would. Yeah, sure, a reference might go over your head, but who cares? It's all about the story, really. And does this story hold up? Is it going somewhere? Do we want to see more from these characters? Are we on the edge of our seat? Well, I guess all of that will come to the surface the more we talk about it, and then we'll hear from you guys. So I'm really curious to hear what the audience thinks. I think the audience likes it, judging from the Tomato Report or whatever they call that website. They got a lot of tomatoes.
Yeah.
So that's a good sign. You know, It seems like everyone's concerned with the tomatoes. Well, it seems like this show has tomatoes. So everyone's celebrating tomatoes.
Yeah, do you notice everyone's always bringing up the tomatoes as long as the tomatoes agrees with them? And if it doesn't, oh my God, they're being hacked. They're being...
Oh, yeah. They're paid by
legitimacy.
Disney.
Yeah, they're being paid. Yeah, right. So I didn't really check out the tomatoes. I'm looking at the comments here in the live chat, and I'm seeing a lot of liked it, loved it. I'm seeing a lot of that. So there definitely seems to be some love. I got to tell you, I was telling people at the day job exactly what you were saying, Mac, that if you haven't dove into one of these Disney Plus Star Wars series, this may be the one. This might be the one to get your feet wet, especially if you have kids. And like you said, it doesn't matter if they're steeped in the lore. In fact, might be even more fun in a way as a parent or, grandparent or whatever your situation might be, to watch kids get introduced to the Star Wars universe through characters like Wim and Fern and Neil and all of that. And so it is, I think, and we'll see. Does it bring the goods for the fans? That's clearly what we're here to judge, but it's also nice to have something entry level.
So I think I hear some kids in your family in the background.
Is that what's going on?
It was almost as if it was on cue. So it just makes me wonder, did you sit and watch it with the family, or is this something you took in by yourself?
No. So, look, this whole Thanksgiving period of time has been plagued by unstoppable football games.
This is
It's nonstop football. I mean, every day it's football. Every day.
Right.
And
Yep,
last night was no exception. There was a Monday night game, and the Cleveland Browns were playing in the Monday night game. So I watched it. I watched it all by myself. Took it to the bedroom with a nice adult beverage, kicked back, turned all the lights out, and I had a grand old time. But I told him all about it and said, we're going to be watching this together because it's. I think it's going to be good times. Well, what should we do the tail of the tape?
Sure.
Let's do the tail of the tape. Okay, so we are talking about the first two episodes. The first episode, and there's something interesting here. There's no part numbers. There's no chapters or anything. In fact, there's no card in the episode to give you the name of the episode at all. So it's almost like they're just kind of doing it, as you do for production and something to put on the Disney Plus menu. But the first episode, This Could Be a Real Adventure, directed by John Watts, one of the co-creators, and written by Christopher Ford and John Watts. Shout out to, by the way, we won't do this every time, but the score by Mick Giacchino, some really great work by him. And then the second episode was oh, by the way, that first episode clocked about 42 minutes. 47, according to Disney Plus, if you count the 5 minutes of credits, which we don't. We want to know how much meat is on the bone. I don't consider the credits meat. So 42 minutes in that first episode. Second episode, way out past the barrier, clocked in at 25 minutes, directed by David Lowery this time, and written by the combo of John Watts and Christopher Ford. So there you have it. The tail of the tape. All in all, Jim, just a little over an hour, about 70 minutes worth of new content dropped on us last night.
Yeah, well, the first episode I felt like was an appropriate length. The second one ended right as I was getting settled in. So, in that particular episode, after the recap and before the credits, you were left with like 22 minutes worth of actual on-screen story being told.
Very short, that second episode.
It's
very short.
It's a little tight. I don't know why that has been firmly established as a running time for any show. 25, 22 minutes, 23 minutes, half an hour.
It's like it's sitcom length. It is not
right.
It's not
even
drama.
Shorter, really.
What? Say that again.
Might even be a little shorter than a typical sitcom.
Yeah, right. It's 22, 25 minutes. That was typical. But for an adventure show, which I wouldn't call this a drama. So, but an action adventure show, it does seem short. But I guess the idea is, we want you to come back every week, and I'm very curious to know, and I would love to know, because it's not just about Skeleton Crew, but in general, how they divvy these episodes up. Because let's say you wrote this episode, so you're Watson Ford. It's like 20 pages. I mean, with considering the action, more like maybe 15 pages. You're like,
yeah,
episode done. It seems kind of easy in that sense, but
maybe it's determined by budget. Notice the second episode was probably a little more heavy on the special effects and digital animation and things like that.
Yeah,
costume characters, you name it. So that could be a cost. That may dictate how long these episodes are, but I don't think we'll ever learn exactly why they determined the length of these episodes to be as long as they are,
Yeah.
or as short as they are, as the case is.
I think if this show keeps up the tone, the more lighthearted tone, it's not going to bother me as much as like Ahsoka did when, you know, because Ahsoka was like deathly serious most of the time, you know, and it had these little 25-minute episodes, and it would drive me crazy because that was something where I was really wanting more and knowing that there was hopefully more. So so that's why I want to start. There was so much, Jim, talked about the tone and the style of this show. Words like Amblin became a verb, an adjective all of a sudden. So how do you feel that this show balanced the tone for sort of the genre that it was trying to capture along with being part of Star Wars? Because that's been a big question from the beginning of the Disney takeover. Kathy Kennedy, going way back, said, I want to do genre stories in the Star Wars universe. This may be the very first real genre story told in Star Wars live action.
Yeah, and it certainly is the biggest departure from the type of Star Wars stories we've been getting told. But, yeah, you know, again, I always say you want to do genre when it comes to Star Wars. Well, start with Star Wars. And that's almost, in this case, it's almost a template for a kid adventure show that they're just basing in the Star Wars universe. Yeah, I get it. I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that out. But it still just makes me scratch my head and think, why aren't they just building on the Star Wars mythology in a more straightforward, linear way than all this hopping around the timeline and different types of stories being told in the universe that don't really connect to the big picture story we've been hearing for years and years? You know, the fight against, between good and evil and galactic dominance and the power of the Force and all of that gets pushed aside for something that might appeal more to like the Stranger Things crowd. So, do other franchises do this? Do they strive to push outside the bubble and think so far outside the box and create these stories that wouldn't typically fit in the Star Wars universe, but they make it fit? I just don't understand the need for so much variety when you have so many cool things to build upon from the Star Wars stories we've already been getting told. Now, this might lead there. Maybe the kids might become a big part of the whole galactic fight between good and evil. And one of the kids may discover some like Force abilities or something, which leads them to Luke Skywalker or whoever. But for now, it seems very firmly about these kids and their so-called lost planet.
Right.
And I think as a premise alone, as something that is striving to be really a different genre than Star Wars altogether, but in the Star Wars universe, it still appeals to me as a fan of Star Wars. So I think it's going somewhere. The initial feelings I got about this after watching it, I did go to the screening in Chicago last night, and it was really cool to see it on the big screen because I feel like the footage they shot earns the big screen. I think it's shot really well. It looks very, very much like it's made by someone who knows what they're doing.
That's a plus.
Unlike our last series from Star Wars, which had a bunch of noobs taking over and really not knowing what toys to play with in the sandbox. It felt like it was a TV show, The Acolyte. Even when I saw that screening in a theater, it felt like I was watching a TV show. This show feels much more cinematic, and it has just a more professional sheen over it all than what we saw in the last series, or even what we saw in Ahsoka.
Ahsoka had this sort of, I there was a sort of blandness to it, or what's the word I'm looking for? Just everything seemed very
Cartoony.
yeah, I guess.
cartoonish.
I don't know. I just thought it just seemed plain. It just seemed sort of cold, and this doesn't. This feels it feels there's a lot of heart in this. It feels warm. I want to say one thing out at the outset for me. These kids are fantastic. I think they're great actors. I think they are delivering the whole range, whether it be the wisecracks, the jokes, the sarcasm, the serious moments when they're scared. I think they are, I would say that they're every bit as good, if not better, than most of the adult actors that we've seen in the Star Wars Disney Plus series, with some obvious exceptions, your Ewan McGregors and things like that. But, great acting. These Star Wars Disney Plus shows are not necessarily known for that. In fact, we often give it a pass because it's not really what we're here to do, is critique the craft of acting. There's a certain believability that they have to get past, but I think that these kids nail it. I really do. I think they really should be. Who did the casting, I think, did a phenomenal job.
Well, maybe adults feel the pressure of being in Star Wars,
Yes.
and it affects their performance.
Right.
And in this case with the kids, maybe they're going into it with a little bit more of a loosey-goosey vibe. They maybe don't fully comprehend the weight of the project or anything. And if that's the case, then the production staff deserves a lot of credit because they were able to shield the kids from that BS. But also, I think as a collective, the four of them have really strong chemistry with each other. And I believe just by watching them go through the paces, acting out these scenes, I think they feed off each other's chemistry very much.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, when you hear about kids, especially kids in Star Wars, you think back to the previous experiences we've had, yippee, and all of that stuff. It feels, or even Kid Leia, or those two weird kids from the Acolyte. These children seemed much more comfortable in their skin, much more natural on screen.
Yeah.
I thought they played off of each other really well. But there's one thing I couldn't help but thinking about as I was watching his first two episodes. Would we get along better with all of them if they didn't have a weird elephant kid with them and it was just four kids? Is the elephant kid necessary?
Oh, that's going to be a controversial statement because there's a lot of love for little Neil. He's very cute.
I'm not bashing Neil or saying he's not cute. I'm just saying, is it necessary to have a weird alien elephant kid among the four protagonists? Would it be more effective if Neil was an actual human? I think there's room for Neil. I mean, there's four kids.
Yeah.
There's four kids. So, if you got to flip one of them into an elephant, then fine. But is it necessary? Does it make it more Star Wars? Or is it a gimmick? What's the deal? Why couldn't it be just four kids? Why do they have to have an elephant with them?
Yeah, I think it's necessary. I really do. I think that just like you had to have Chewbacca thrown in with the and the droids, I think it's part of a formula that you got to throw an alien character in there. What might be throwing you off, or maybe throwing some people off, is that unlike Chewie, who essentially kind of pantomimed and growled his way through things, and you learned so much about him and understood what he was saying through the human characters. Neil seems, other than the way he looks, he seems just as human as the rest of the kids. There's no accent. Yeah. There's nothing. So that's something that I kind of reacted to. And by not giving him anything else exotic about him other than his trunk and his look, it does make you think, well, is that even necessary? So I don't think you're wrong for questioning it. But for me, it's more about they could have gone maybe a little bit further with the character. You know, again, Star Wars now, they don't like to do subtitles. You know, I know, especially when you got a show that's probably directed more for kids. But if you had him, imagine, you know, obviously he and Wim are really, really close. They probably grew up together in that neighborhood. You could almost imagine him speaking some other language and Wim understanding him perfectly and us understanding what Neil's saying through Wim's reaction and things like that. And it could have made for something, you know, interesting or comical with the other kids. Maybe they don't understand him as well. So I think they could have pushed Neil further. I would agree with that. Because otherwise it seems kind of like, well, why is he an elephant? Other than to sell more toys.
Well, I mean, that could be to try to give it a more toyetic edge.
Yeah.
Or maybe, you know, to provide like some subliminal messaging to the kids watching. Hey, if someone's just because they look different than you doesn't mean they're any different than you are. And you can find common ground with anyone, despite the fact that he's a little elephant boy. You can find common ground. You could sit down and share a bag of peanuts.
So you think that maybe this is more of a morality tale?
No.
Is that what you're?
No,
I have
I don't.
In there? No.
Okay. No, but I'm just saying that could be an unintended effect.
Sure.
That's
more of a Trekkie. It's more of a hippie Trekkie kind of thing.
Well, beam me up. But I'll say this, you know, I really think the kid is in there just to give it more of an exotic Star Wars-y type edge. So they're not all just, because if they are just human kids, then it could be like, well, this is just Stranger Things, you know, there is no connection to Star Wars whatsoever.
I'll tell you, the biggest thing that surprised me about the kids, Jim, is I just walked into this assuming that we were going to meet 4 kids who have been friends for years, like we did with Goonies and Stranger Things. I was really surprised that it's taking us through the origins of them becoming a foursome. I think in some ways that can probably help in the storytelling and the drama, because there could be potential for lack of trust at some point, things like that. But at the same time, when you see a group of characters going through experiences like this, you know, especially with kids, you sort of assume, or it's just more tropey that they've all grew up together and they've known each other forever and they can tell what the other one's thinking before the other one has to even say a line. So I thought that was an interesting choice, we'll say, to have them meet along the way.
It appears to me that the 2 girls are maybe just a little bit older. I don't get the vibe
I'm getting too. Yeah.
And to have them all meeting, you know, the 2 pairs are obviously quite tight with each other, but it does form a bit of a rivalry among the kids. As protagonists, they're all supposed to be working together, but just knowing they don't have that loyalty to each other over shared years of friendship, then that means, there could be some backstabbing. There could be some audibles being called that will get them in trouble. And then the kids will argue, well, why did you do that when we were supposed to do this? Yada, yada, yada.
Right.
And we got some foreshadowing in the first couple episodes about some potentially bad situations the kids will most likely find themselves in as the series proceeds.
Yeah. We talked about the genre and it being kind of a departure from Star Wars, but I do have to say the opening sequence to me felt very Star Wars, and I don't think it was an accident when you saw the pirates raid the ship, and you know the alien, or excuse me, the villains coming through the cutout porthole and all of that, all the way up to what was his name? Sirloin? You only
Salvo?
see it in the subtitle. Captain
Salvo?
Silvo
Salvo?
Elbow.
Is it Silvo or
I think it-
Salvo?
I think it's Silvo. But when he's
Probably
holding up
Salvo.
he's holding up the one guy, the captain of the ship, a la Vader. This is like right out of the beginning of A New Hope in the storming of the Tantive 4. And so also an interesting choice. I mean, I think we're bearing the lead here. I think we're going to find out that this Silvo is the Jude Law character. This is Jadna Nawad. And we see his origin. But they didn't have to start here necessarily. But I think they did because they wanted the first impression to be, oh, this is Star Wars. You got the Wolfman character. You've got, I believe, Ishi Tib is credited according to IMDb that it really is Ishi Tib. So
yeah, he takes a blaster bolt right into the eye socket.
Yes.
Yeah, you clearly see it during the blaster battle. And then later in the second episode, when they show up on Borgo, the spaceport, we see Ishi Tib sitting in a chair getting a cybernetic eye implant.
Oh, I missed that detail. I missed that detail.
There's sparks flying and he's completely, it was so brief. It was real quick, but yeah, that was the same Ishi Tib.
They call me Ishi Tib. It's a great it's a great line.
But I did enjoy the opening sequence. There were other pirates, other alien species. I saw a Gran, like a Reese. I saw a Snaggletooth, a Squidhead, a Trandoshan, and there was that little guy. He was in The Last Jedi in the Canto Bight sequence. I don't know. It looks kind of like a Muppety sort of lizard guy.
Muppety.
Yeah, I think it's called. I looked it up. It's called a Swerton, and it's a species that you see in The Last Jedi and in The Mandalorian season 1.
I thought the aliens in this sequence and then at the spaceport, there was a lot of eye candy. I thought they were great. I thought it was nice to get away from the J.J. Abrams weird, fleshy colored aliens of the sequel trilogy. There was a lot of fur. There was a lot of scales. There was feathers. There was just all different types. And some of them really, I thought, had the charm of those original Cantina aliens.
Yeah.
I'm a little
Without,
over the... Sorry, go ahead.
Wild. Well, they don't have the wild alien languages and things like that. And that is
the
kind of a
language thing is a miss.
I mean, because they all just sound like, animated characters. Hey, what are you doing? It's really very exaggerated the way they make these guys sound. And if you just gave them a different language, I don't think it would sound so exaggerated. It would sound more exotic. But that's a lot of subtitles too. And,
yeah, it is. It is. The other thing too that might be that now the Ithorian in the classroom, he did speak Ithorian, and no one seemed to bat an eye. Now his line wasn't necessarily important to the story, because what I was gonna throw out was, is it possible? And we'll get to this in a minute about the kids are very sheltered. This whole planet at Ada is very sheltered. So would it be believable if they got to this very exotic spaceport and they understood the alien languages that are being used, coming from such a backwater hidden, which I think we'll find out, planet? So possibly, but in general,
I mean, they're aliens. The aliens, they conduct conversations among themselves, and in that case, you can definitely get away with alien dialects and subtitles and stuff like that without having to worry about whether the kids understand them or not. But the production just doesn't really care to do that. But I did, like I said, I did enjoy that opening sequence with those drills that went into the ship with the boarding tubes.
Oh yeah.
And, very, like you said, very A New Hope inspired. As even from the beginning, you get, it's not a crawl, but it's an intro.
Right.
And it's in the proper Star Wars font and shade of blue and all of that. And then the camera pans down to a ship over a planet and kind of rides along with the ship, and then blaster battle in the hallway. And then Captain Salvo chokes the captain of the other ship like Darth Vader. And the rhythm of their conversation is very much like the back and forth between Vader and Captain Antilles. I have it here in A New Hope. Vader, the Captain Antilles says, "This is a counselor ship. We're on a diplomatic mission. If this is a counselor ship, where is the ambassador?" Crunch. And then this one was, "We have no credit shipment. This is a bulk freighter. If this is a bulk freighter, why is your vault magnetically sealed?" All right, it doesn't really have the charm of the original.
No, but the patter is dead on.
The rhythm of it all
it
is
rhymes.
very
As George might say. But no, it's there. I think that it serves two purposes. It obviously puts you square into the Star Wars universe, and it gives us some background on Silvo. And I don't know, I can't be the only one that just assumes this, right? Does everybody, was it like the worst kept secret based on his accent that Silvo is Jadna Nawwood?
Oh, as soon as the character spoke, you knew it was Jude Law.
Yes. Yeah,
The
okay,
first
all right,
line of
okay.
dialogue, you knew it was Jude Law.
Right.
Yeah. I don't think that's a big secret.
Yeah.
And it gives us a glimpse into who he is and what he does.
Right.
He's a pirate.
He's a pirate. Now, what it does do is it calls into question. In fact, on my way out of the day job today, somebody was asking me, this happened multiple times today. I was really gung-ho about the show and telling people, yeah, you should watch it. And everyone, without fail, said, "Oh, is this the Jude Law one?"
Oh.
That's how they referred to the show. "Oh, is this the Jude Law one?" Yeah, it's the Jude Law one. So, hey, there might be some method to the madness. I mean, I think Jude Law is going to prove to be a great casting, but getting somebody with a little star power, which is kind of unusual for Star Wars. It's kind of has its unknown, it has its history with unknowns, but maybe that'll help, at least in far as getting people to talk about it, because it gives them a handle. Skeleton Crew, that was the one show of all the shows that were introduced. I could never remember the name of this show until it got to about a year ago and we started actually seeing more stuff. It's because it just doesn't feel Star Warsy to me at all. I mean, it's very piratey, and we'll know why, because the show is very piratey. But so as far as the characters go, I'm going to say that I found them extraordinarily relatable and likable. I mean, when you see the kid, you see Wim playing with his action figures. I don't know if this is right out of Spaceballs or no. I did not see you playing with your toys, or reading the comic books, which I think that's kind of what we're seeing as he's flipping through and reading about the adventures of the Jedi and all of this stuff. They're really doing this dance, Jim, where it's like self-aware of the universe, but also in universe at the same time. So they're not necessarily playing with Star Wars action figures. I guess it'd be like us playing with Army Men, or something when we were kids. Revolutionary War, Civil War, Army Men. In fact, not much articulation on these here action figures. I think they are kind of the equivalent of.
I wonder, can we identify them? I mean, maybe they're actual Star Wars action figures that have been spray painted or something. That looks like it could be a Boba Fett. I don't know. All I know is that the kid took it out of the packaging and he's totally destroyed its collectability and value.
Well, look, there's definitely a red lightsaber and a green lightsaber. And I think they're made to look a little, they're not homemade, but like almost like they're made of wax. Like you can almost see like kind of the drippings. It also could be, like you're saying, to obscure, what this actually is. But so reading the comic books, playing with the action figures, this is a thought that I had. Because at first I was like, I don't know that I like this. I don't know that I like comic books in Star Wars. I don't know that I like action figures in Star Wars. And then it kind of hit me that, look, they're trying to get kids, like my son, who's 12 years old, kids of today to relate to these characters, why not do it through things like action figures and video games and comic books, just the way the kids of the 70s related to Luke Skywalker and going out with his buddies and bullseyeing womp rats and doing target practice and some of the more rough and tumble things that kids, of the, 50s, 60s, and 70s did. So maybe I guess I'm trying to say that there's a reason why maybe some of these more modern, you could say real world elements are brought into this. And I think it's about making the kids more relatable. Otherwise they'd be playing with, this stuffed stormtrooper like what we saw in Rogue One, the more homemade Galaxy's Edge type of stuff. What did you think about the action figures, the comic books, and what does that tell you about where the Jedi are? The Jedi real to these people in At-Ada? Is it fantasy? Is it myth?
Well, I would say that the whole idea of the Jedi is probably largely considered to be fictional to them, just like their planet seems fictional to those outside of their sector,
Right.
beyond the barrier, And so I think it's that kind of parallel going on where people know there's knowledge of the Jedi and things like that, but it's more of a mythology than an actual real history to these people. Wim seems to be dead set on being a Jedi for when he grows up, and that's a heavy thing going on because he's going through a career placement situation. So it appears
Did you ever
that
take one of those,
free will
Jim,
is-
in school? They didn't do those when I was in school, but the career assessment, this is a thing.
No.
I don't think they do it much anymore, but this was a real thing, like back in the, I think more like in the 60s and 70s. You take a test in school and it would say, you should be a secretary. Or you should be a car mechanic.
But the big problem is these assessments they take, these tests, that does determine what they're going to be for a living. And apparently everyone there wants to be an analyst or a shift supervisor or something, there's not much ambition because that's been stripped away from these people. So a kid like Wim, he dives into his imagination head first.
Yeah.
Because what's going on in the real world is kind of a drag. It doesn't seem like these people have any freedom of choice when it comes to choosing a career. And that bothers me. That seems to be pretty heavy-handed. It all gets spelled out when that Undersecretary Farah comes in, where she takes time out from her busy schedule. That's another thing. All of the adults on Ad-Adin are way too busy for the kids. The kids are just an afterthought. They don't have to raise the kids. All they have to do is let the kids go to school, take their tests, and then boom, their career gets handed to them, whether they like it or not. But this Undersecretary Farah, she talks to the kids about the career assessment test, and then she says they then get placed into careers that benefit the great work. And it's like, oh, okay, that's odd. That gives us, some hints as into what's going on here, and it just says, there's no freedom of choice. The great work. Why do they place them into these positions? To help keep the Republic strong. Are they talking about the New Republic? I don't think so. I think they're talking about their own Republic, whatever is contained within that barrier that they live beyond. And so I don't think it's the New Republic. If these people are cut out from the rest of the galaxy and the rest of the galaxy seems unaware of their planet seems like someplace that comes out of fairy tales to people on the other side. So I think any reference that someone like Undersecretary Farah makes to, quote, the Republic is specifically talking about what these isolationists have going on their side of the barrier. No ships are allowed in and out. So, I mean, obviously they're cut off. They're isolationists.
Right. But they're isolated. We don't know if they're necessarily isolationists because we don't know what caused At-Ada to be at Aten to be isolated. You know, it could be such a thing that people from the old republic said, hey, just stay here, we'll be back. There's some crisis going on, hunker down here, don't let any ships in or out, and we'll be back to get you in a couple of years. And you know, all of a sudden now it's 30 years or however many years, and you've had the fall of the old republic, you've had the rise and then the fall of the empire, all within the time that these people are just sitting around. I feel like they feel more to me, Jim, like they're waiting on something, or that they are just being purposely misdirected from even asking what's out there beyond the barrier. So I think this Farah character, I think she knows more than she's letting on. And the fact that there's this great work, it sounds very culty to me. Great work. Ooh, oh, the great and powerful Oz. So I think there's something perhaps nefarious going on. But I'm reluctant to say that it's, say, the collective decision of the citizens of Aten to isolate themselves knowingly from the rest of the galaxy. But they're like a crazy time capsule.
Well, I feel like they know exactly what they're doing, these people, because the droid teacher, when we cut into the schoolroom and the droid teacher is in the middle of her lesson, and she's laying out some sort of scientific process for something, and she mentions these are systems used by planets outside the barrier. So there is, they all know. I don't think there's any secrets being held from these people. They all know what's going on, and they all know that they're sort of enveloped in this area that is difficult to get in and out of because it's surrounded by a barrier. What is this barrier? Is it man-made? Is it some sort of natural phenomenon? Or is it, like you said, Jason, something more culty and nefarious? And when they talk about the great work, that makes me think, yeah, it is something culty and nefarious. Could this be some, like, for all we know, these guys are Sith loyalists, and they're the ones hiding out trying to develop the technology to bring Palpatine back to life. See how I make it all tie in?
Jimmy Mack, the Alex Jones of Star Wars theory here.
Oh, please do not say my name in the same breath.
Get this, the tinfoil hat. Mac is claiming that Aten is a front for the conspiracy to bring back the Emperor of the Universe.
Just because I say it doesn't mean I'm sold on it.
I'm just kidding you. I love it. I love that we can have these wild speculations. But look, here's one thing we know: something's not right here. This is very odd. In fact, someone on the chat was saying that they thought that Farah looked more like someone from the High Republic era than even just the Old Republic era of, say, maybe just prior to the prequels or something, like, well, maybe the colors, the drab colors, and not drab colors, the tans and the blues.
The connection I was making between the uniform the kids wear to school with their light tan jackets and the blue shirt underneath, I was thinking of Biggs Darklighter. It seemed like they were just like Biggs. Big! There's Big. We got to do this so you can see him. But Biggs! I mean, that's kind of what the kids were wearing.
Yeah.
The kids were wearing that sort of, good old Biggs. When he makes a cameo on the show. But that's what I was largely thinking. But High Republic, there could be some tie in there. Maybe that was the last time this society was open and exposed to the rest of the galaxy, was in the High Republic era. They're still using Old Republic currency, I think.
Right, which makes these guys flip out. I mean, that'd be like somebody, in a time machine coming to present day, our present day, and paying with some sort of, Spanish doubloon or something, speaking of pirates. So, but mint condition, as if it was, something still in circulation. So we don't know how long these people have either isolated themselves or been isolated from the events of the galaxy, but certainly they have no knowledge of the Empire. They've been spared. You look at the suburbs. Another reason why I think maybe they went with this very idyllic Leave It to Beaver kind of suburban setting is, again, relatability, and to show the pristine perfection, to show that it has not been tampered with by the Empire at all. I mean, if the Empire would have known about it, they'd have stripped it for everything that it was worth. Imagine them knowing that there was, valuable currency still in circulation there. So I think it's safe to say that even the Empire, perhaps the Emperor himself, had no idea that the At-Ada, or At-Aten, I'm going to keep calling it At-Ada, existed. So
yeah. Well, again, I think the whole idea of having the kids come from a very familiar environment like suburbs does put us in their shoes. And it's like, well, what if we got stripped away from our cushy lifestyles and thrown out into the galaxy at a pirate spaceport? What would it be like for us? Well, kind of similar to what's going on with the kids. At least the kids are a little bit more up to speed with the technology of the Star Wars universe.
yes, they are.
Like things like hyperspace isn't a foreign concept to them, or starships, or alien species. They're on board with that.
Yeah,
and
they don't have a
certain
lot of experience with them. Clearly, they've never been through hyperspace before. But you're right; they have an awareness, so it's not like they're. It's just like maybe say the first time you flew on an airplane as a kid, blew your mind, but you were aware of airplanes existing and the possibility of what they can do and all of that. So
it's just to reinforce the whole idea of being a stranger in a strange land.
Right. Here's a question I have. Can anyone explain to me why Wim would have needed to pick his bike up and put it over that barrier instead of being able to glide over it? Is it because he's got the Star Wars equivalent of training wheels and his speeder doesn't go that high off the ground? But clearly, Fern, she was not having that same problem with her bike, but she's a little more street tough, I guess.
Maybe he just didn't trust himself or the bike. I think when he saw Fern taking that shortcut, he realized it existed. I don't think he had any idea. He was not familiar with going down that dead end and up and over the barrier and into the we have to be careful saying barrier because that comes into play in the show.
Right.
There's this big barrier and then there's the
great
street barrier here. But yeah, for him to go up and over it, maybe it's just something he's never done before, and Fern has done it many times. And
I was watching, I was like, what the hell's the point of having a hover bike if you got to lob it over the I don't know, the 3-foot high gate?
Yeah, and really, in a society where you do have repulsor lift technology, what's the point of this guardrail here anyway? I mean, like you said, it's 3 feet above the ground. If you're going to build one, make it 20 feet above the ground,
Right.
That'll stop people from entering into that area.
Just as a reminder, if you're listening to the show or if you're watching the show for the first time, this is a call-in. We've got the number up on the screen, 708-866-1737, 708-866-1737. Give us a call. We do have a jammed switchboard right now, so right now it looks like all the lines are taken. Tyler Page, our call screener, he's here, folks. He's a little under the weather, but he is here. So yeah, we're not gonna make you do any more than you have to, Tyler. We're just appreciative that you're here, and don't pass whatever you got on to the people calling. Okay?
Yeah. No kissing on the lips.
I'll try not to.
Obviously, we got more to get to. We're going to be getting to the calls here in a little bit. I think that the discovery of the starship, I felt was done in a really believable natural kind of way. I mean, he literally, stumbled upon it. I don't think that there was anything, too, for lack of a better word, forced in it. I could see, as a kid, I used to go out with my cousins and my brother, and we'd go hiking through the woods and stuff like that. We'd find all kinds of things. We'd follow railroad tracks to see where they left us. So Wim seems like that type of kid that would be doing that sort of thing, and also always having his eye out for adventure and what is going to perhaps bring him, more adventure than, something like this. He's not exactly sure, what it is. He thinks it's a Jedi temple. He tells his dad when they're in the principal's office that's what he's discovered. And Jim, I got to say, Wendell, I don't know. Wim must have gotten all of his personality from Mom, because Wendell's he's a nice guy. I think he's a dad that's providing. He tells him he loves him when he puts him to bed. But man, is that guy a wet blanket? Jeez.
Yeah. Thus far, he kind of blows. I think the character is sort of built that way. He's too busy. Again, as I said, the adults in this world, they're too busy for the kids. All they care about is work for the great work, whatever that is. And Wendell, also something to keep in mind. I kind of felt a little tug on my heartstring when Wim wanted the bedtime story, like the ones Mom used to tell him. And that sequence told me a couple of things. It told me, number one, Wim's mom no longer around. What happened to Wim's mom?
Yeah.
And number two is she probably had a great effect on and was hugely inspirational on Wim as far as his creativity and imagination goes. But back to the first thing, what happened to the mom? I think this guy, the dad, he's a widower, and that might explain a little bit about why his butt is so tied up in a bunch, and he's just really he's a tight ass. And I think that's because he's mourning. He's got to raise this kid by himself. He's got to work. And what do people do when they're depressed or upset? They dive into their work. And that's what's happening here. Obviously, he loves his son very much, and you could see later in the episode when he sees the kids getting sucked into space on a spaceship, he's obviously very concerned and worried. Right. He's not like, oh well, that Wim is out of my hair once and for all, thank God. No, he's reacting like a concerned parent should, and as a person who loves his son. So we will see his character emerge more and more as this series goes on. I'll say spoiler alert real quick, because I'm going to reference something I saw. And I've seen this a few times since the promotion for this show has begun. You see the kids on speeder bikes, presumably in a later episode, judging by the images we've seen, and they're joined by the dad, and he's with them. So he obviously will segue into this adventure somehow.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a legit spoiler alert, but the picture was a spoiler. So, and we're not showing the photo on our video, but that's what happened. That's what I saw. So he's obviously going to find himself more in the mix as far as the adventure goes.
These safety droids, I got a bad feeling about these guys. They remind me of battle droids a lot. And I just, when Wendell was, just seeing the kids go up in that starship, the safety droids kind of have this tone like they're there to help, but they're not really there to help. I think they're there just to keep up the ruse or make sure that Atten is not molested or by any outside forces. I just get the sense that, like I say, they're really not there to help. They're there to look like they're there to help, but they're not. And if Wendell puts up too much of a squawk, I don't think these battle droid or these safety droids would have much trouble making him disappear. They just strike me as that type.
Yeah, well, they're definitely authoritarian, and it appears that the humans on the planet defer that sort of law enforcement to droids. So I think that might even be something that's rather common in the entire Star Wars universe. I guess until maybe the Clone Wars, and then people got a bad taste in their mouth about droids with authority. But
That's why we don't serve their
guys,
kind.
these guys are shut off from the rest of the planet, so maybe that the bad reputation droids have post Clone Wars isn't really felt on the planet at Adin because they were probably absent for the Clone Wars.
Right. So there is a trust in their droids. They're using them as teachers and all kinds of things. So this was probably one of the biggest moments in the episode. It's when Wim hits that green button, which it starts the starship, and it's in some ways the show kind of plays this off as if it's accidental, and the kids just accidentally get hurled into space. I think this says a lot about Wim's character. This was not accidental. Wim might not have known necessarily what was going to happen when he pressed that green button, but he wanted to see what was going to happen when he pressed that green button. So this is the adventurer. This is the kid that's hoping and dreaming and wanting more. And obviously he's committing his newfound friends to this. And they're not thrilled. None of them are really thrilled with him when this happens.
Yeah, he just wants to see what's going to happen. Next thing you know, they're blasted into another part of the galaxy. And then in the second episode, as the droid 33 is showing the kids around the cockpit and teaching them sort of how to fly the ship, Wim, of course, discovers the emergency hull demolition sequencer.
Yeah.
Okay. And so they're, don't touch that. Whatever you do, never, ever touch that. And so obvious foreshadowing. We know that button is going to be pressed in a future episode. And odds are very strong it will be Wim pushing the button. I don't think he'll be doing it just to see what happens, though. I think he'll have a purpose for doing it. But it is the emergency hull demolition sequencer button. So you're never supposed to touch that.
No,
but there will be a situation in which it needs to be pressed.
So they're very reluctant, with maybe the exception of Wim. But I think as soon as things get out of control and Wim almost falls out of the starship, I think he probably regrets at that point hitting the green button. The one thing I'll say too about the droid SM-33,
I don't think he regretted hitting that button.
You still don't think, even when he's
no
running away from pirates, you think he's enjoying every minute of it?
Well, he sure seemed like he was enjoying it when he discovered the captain's quarters and he was flopping on the dusty bed and Neil was saying, "Hey, I just want to go home." And Wim gave Neil a look of just such disappointment.
Yeah. Like, why would you want to do that? Yeah, it's great. He's wearing the pirate hat and he's, looking through the telescope and all that. It's like, this is it. The pirate life for me. SM-33, by the way, if you just kind of flip the 3 and the 3 over, you get Smee, which, of course, is the first mate of Captain Hook and Peter Pan. So I think that is a little reference there.
For sure.
And very, I thought, fun character. I mean, he definitely had sort of a K2SO sort of vibe to him. Different personality, of course, but similar dynamic. The way he was sort of ended up being a protector of the kids after Fern convinced him that she was the new pirate king, I guess, and killed the captain.
He felt like an animatronic character from the Pirates of the Caribbean ride at Disney, stripped of its skin. He was just like, that's what the animatronic looks like underneath one of those pirates on the ride. This guy. And he's got he's got the bilge rat living in his eye. And the only reason I know to call it a bilge rat is that's what they referred to it on the audio description track for the show. They called it a bilge rat. It looked like a half rat, half catfish.
Yeah.
But in pirate terminology, a bilge rat is a rat that lives in the bilge of a ship and is considered to be like the lowliest creature by the pirates. And but they still will eat the bilge rat if they have to survive. And then it becomes an insulting name pirates use, for each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, bilge rat, yeah. And they used
Right,
other
right.
pirate terminology in the show, like, throw him in the brig, things like that. It's very pirate oriented.
Yeah.
I saw somebody online complain, "Oh, that's so real Earth to call it the brig." And I'm like, "Well, wait a second though. This is, the pirate story being told in the Star Wars universe. So it's only natural that they use pirate terminology to drive the point home."
Right.
People say, "Well, Han Solo didn't talk like that, and he's a space pirate." It's like, well, he's a smuggler, he's a scoundrel, but he's kind of a good guy too. He's not what you typically think of as a pirate. But ever since 1977, Han Solo has been referred to as a space pirate.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I think it was just that George wasn't comfortable going that far in making it
Right.
analogous. He just didn't go that far.
George
for
wasn't
whatever
being that
reason.
on the nose. He was
Right.
mixing a bunch of different influences. Obviously, Han Solo to me seemed more like the cowboy, who would go out and take 10 paces and draw, that kind
Yeah.
of guy,
Right.
more than an actual pirate. But because he did have a ship and the ship did apparently raid other ships, I mean, that's, what goes down in the Star Wars universe. So a pirate he is.
Indeed. Indeed. And as you point out, Wim is oddly comfortable. He's not freaking out like the other kids.
Right.
He has his freak out moments, but the whole idea of being away from home doesn't seem to be throwing him all that much. So he's definitely, I feel, the hero that's being called to adventure. I think that for the most part, we're looking at Wim's story being obviously enhanced by other characters, but I think this is really Wim's tale.
Right. He's going on the hero's journey.
Indeed.
And he's got a good crew to join him on that journey. Whether or not they're reluctant about it, they'll all take certain steps on their own hero's journey as well. But the show is largely told, I believe, from Wim's perspective.
Yes. Yes. But all the characters, I mean, with the exception of KB, she's the girl with the blonde hair and the visor. With the exception of KB, I feel like the kids have all really sort of, I know their characters. I feel like they're not necessarily, wouldn't say they're classic archetypes or anything necessarily, but I think you get a sense of who they are. I'm a little less convinced of that with KB though. I feel like she's almost droid-like or something like that. I don't know.
She's a Lobot. She has the cybernetic implants.
She's
And
a
she also has
Lobot.
Yeah, and she has a Geordie LaForge visor too.
Yeah, but the visor comes up. The visor
Yeah.
comes up, and Geordie's didn't. So
Right.
wait a minute. Is this is for real that KB is a Lobot?
According to StarWars.com,
Uh-huh.
they have the character data bank,
Yeah.
and in there it says that she has cybernetic implants, and so that makes her a Lobot.
Awfully young for implants.
That's what
I-
well, you got to talk to a plastic surgeon about that.
But
I'm
let me
talking-
see if I can get a good shot here. I will say, this show is it didn't ruin it for me or anything, but it's dark. It's dark, and so capturing some of these screen captures is a little difficult. But there you go. So Jim, the visor is attached to the Lobot, just below like the Lobot implants, and it goes up and down. But yeah, she's definitely been enhanced. So I wonder if that just means you're some sort of killjoy. I mean, or you just have less personality because you've been given these enhancements, or is it that type of personality chooses to be enhanced. I don't know. Nothing
That's kind
against
of
the
which
character. I
came
just-
first, the chicken or the egg sort of question.
yeah.
But yeah, it may affect her personality having those implants and make her more computer-like, more analytical than the other kids, more able to upload information than the other kids. But
Right. She's the
But yeah,
nerd of the group. That's for sure.
let's who's in the chat here stirring it up. Somebody said, is she a mod? Are you a mod or a rocker? I'm a lobot, says Peter Weiser.
That's what
So,
she is.
okay,
She's neither.
The mods, I think the difference between a mod and a lobot are the mods go for more like bionics, like limbs and other devices to help them be more effective at whatever they do. With a lobot, that's kind of like making yourself into a computer. Yes. Yeah, I guess does the beep mean I was right, or does it mean I was wrong?
No, this is something that I've never seen happen before.
What's
but
that?
We've lost our connection to our call-in studio
Oh no.
right as we were about to take calls. So,
Oh, that's
Jim,
not
I'm
good.
I hate to do this, but I got to turn it over to you for a few minutes here.
Sure.
So that I can investigate. So,
Right.
Jimmy Mack, everybody, Jimmy Mack, jumping in. Here.
Jason Swank investigative report. I hope we get when this is all said and done. But there are other observations from the first episode I would like to talk about. I was wondering, how much crossover between At-Adin and the actual Star Wars universe. We all know how much actually exists. We see a Rhodian kid. So that's a strong indicator that there's been some cross contamination of other species within these guys. So, obviously they were connected to the Republic at some time, but I don't think that they have been really part of the actual Star Wars galaxy in probably like hundreds of years. But we see a bat bird on the planet At-Adin, and those are called Reptavians. I know it's a Reptavian because that's what the descriptive audio track told me. And so when I looked it up, I discovered Reptavians have been around since the Phantom Menace. I can't tell you exactly where in the Phantom Menace you would see one. If somebody knows, let me know. Speaking of the Phantom Menace, there was a couple of Kitster tributes in the first two episodes with Wim using the term "so wizard." He says it's about Fern's bike in the first episode, and then in the second episode he says it again. But I like to think that's a tribute to our very own Kitster. And then if you want to go even deeper into connections, you have a tribute to the Star Wars Holiday Special, as Neil is watching the same dancing acrobatic hologram that Mala was watching in the original. Or was it the kid Lumpy? I think Lumpy was watching it in the original. Yeah, Mala was watching the cooking show hosted by a cross-dressing Harvey Korman. But Neil watches the Holiday Special. So when I was watching the episode, I was thinking to myself, is this actual footage from the Holiday Special? Did they repurpose it somehow? But no, according to StarWars.com, the costume designer studied the Holiday Special, recreated the wardrobe, and they hired some dancing acrobats to recreate that hologram that we originally saw in the Star Wars Holiday Special. So that's cool. Speaking of Neil, he has a crush on Runa. At first I thought they called her Rona. And I was like, why are they naming a character after a slang term for the coronavirus? Oh, he's got a crush on Rona. I was like, that seems weird. But it's Runa. Okay, that makes a big difference then, because that was like terminology. People would say, oh, I got the Rona. No, now, Neil has a crush on Runa. Big difference. And Runa looks like a Furby, a little green Furby. So, it's still a very exotic environment in which these people exist. And, let's look through my notes a little bit more because, maybe this is a little joke Jason's going to play where he just leaves me here and I will just start riffing on everything. But I still have a few more notes. Thank God. We got the ship going through the barrier, something to notice. And you can kind of catch this during the show when the kids look up in the sky. It's like all swirly and stuff. I thought they were looking up at like many different universes, but apparently what they're looking at is the barrier. And when they go past the barrier, they get exposed to stars and they see all the pinpoints of stars all across the sky and they get blown away. They never see anything like it. They're like, what is it? He goes, those are planets. Those are planets. And that was just like a whole new experience for these kids, which further pushes the whole concept of their society being isolationists, cut off from the rest of the galaxy and unaware of what goes on beyond the barrier. So how are we doing, Jason? Did we fix the issues with the call-in studio?
We did. I got good news and bad news for Tyler. The good news is that we're back up and running with the switchboard. The bad news is that it was wiped, and he's got to rescreen on the call. So I apologize, Tyler. That of all nights
and to our callers,
to happen.
we apologize to our callers more than Tyler. Actually,
well, but Tyler's sick. These callers. I don't know. They may be sick.
He's still here to screen the calls.
That's true.
Our audience has to call back now. They're the ones who are really being put out. So, yeah. But we appreciate your patience and we thank you for that. And I pretty much wrapped up all the notes I took on episode
very
one.
Good. All right, folks. It's been a great after show. Of course, we're going to be talking to our callers here in just a moment. So, So it was something that has never happened in the history of our RFR after shows, and we've done a lot of them. I've never seen that problem before. So introducing, I thought, SM-33, getting the droid in there, I thought just now, and then you got Jadna Nawud by the end of this. You've got the whole package. You got the whole crew. You've got a few humans. You got an alien in there. You've got a Jedi. You've got a droid. You've got the makings of, I think, the perfect, team for a Star Wars adventure right there. So I think they've got all of the elements together. Whether or not Jadna Nawud is a Jedi, I think that was confirmed, and then it wasn't confirmed. But that opening, seeing him as a pirate, I guess it's possible that someone could be a pirate as their cover, as a Jedi that's, in hiding. But, why would he necessarily need to be in hiding at this stage? This is 5-ish years after the fall of the Empire. So I would think that the Jedi wouldn't necessarily, or Force sensitives wouldn't necessarily have to be, living in any kind of fear of anything else. I'm unaware of bounties being on the heads of Force sensitives after the fall of the Empire. So, but who knows? Maybe he's been playing this pirate role. Another big movie of the 80s was The Princess Bride, and you had the Dread Pirate Roberts. So I was wondering if maybe there might be something to a connection with that. The Dread Pirate Roberts was sort of almost a folklore character that ended up being multiple people throughout the history in that movie. So who knows what the deal is with Jadna Nawud. We haven't even heard that name yet in the first 2 episodes of the show. The name's not mentioned at all. We do see him levitate keys. And of course, everybody's scratching their heads saying, well, if he had the ability to do that all this time, what's he doing locked up in a prison cell? So is he a Jedi? Is he a Force sensitive? Is this a ruse? Is this some sort of smokescreen? He just wants to take advantage of these kids? Place your bets now, I guess.
He wants the money that could be found at Aden. which is, largely thought of as a mythical place. But as soon as people start thinking that the kids could possibly be there, they want to tag along and go check it out, because Ad-Aden is a myth to these people. It's the lost planet of eternal treasure. And the kids hear this and they're like, what? That's nuts, man. Ad-Aden? Are you? I mean, it's almost like saying planet Earth is the lost planet of eternal treasure. And sometimes you don't know that you're surrounded by treasure until somebody else without treasure points it out to you.
Well, they might as well have been saying that they were from Neverland. I mean, that's, or Atlantis, or, something like that, to the people outside of Ad-Aden. So it's been relegated to myth and folklore within the Star Wars universe. So that kind of gives you a sense that it has to have been a hell of a long time. We're talking more than 30 years. I think this has to have been in isolation for centuries, really, for this to make sense.
Yeah, when you stepped away, I was speculating that it's probably been hundreds of years.
Right, and I would agree.
Since these guys had any contact with the outside galaxy. The woman that, the lady of the night, who introduces herself to the kids, she's a Thelan, like Ristal from the Return of the Jedi Special Edition. She introduces herself to the kids and says, what do you think, you're Linderlings from the lost planet of eternal treasure? It's a Linderling.
Yeah. Like, are you a lost boy? Are you a fairy of some sort? So
Linderling. I've never heard that term before. But and
did you think that she was, they were like stranger danger with her. She's coming at them saying, look, something bad is going to happen to you. You need to let me help you. And they're like, yeah, I think you're the bad thing that's about to happen to us. They didn't trust her at all. No. And I thought, we're gonna pick up another member of the group here with this actress, but I think we've probably seen the last of her. Maybe I don't know. Maybe she hooks up with Jadna Nawood and the kids on their way on their escape. Obviously, they're gonna escape from this prison, the brig, and go on to fight another day. I think it is time to take some calls. Let's start with David from Connecticut. Hey, David, you're on with Rebel Force Radio and the first Skeleton Crew after show.
Hey, how's it going, everybody?
Hey.
Hello, how's it going?
Doing well.
He doesn't.
Hey, I wanted to bring up something I noticed watching episode 1.
Yeah.
The whole story so far seems to be kind of like a metaphor for the average Star Wars kid, just kind of like almost leaving the real world and just going on an adventure into the Star Wars universe, which I find awesome, honestly.
Oh, so you're talking about, this is talking to us in universe, but out of the universe at the same time.
Kind of, in a way. It's like, Wim is supposed to like represent like, us as kids, I mean, when we first see him, he's literally playing with Jedi action figures.
Right. And now I was making the point that maybe this was a way to relate more to kids of today through, the comic books and toys and things like that. But you're saying that maybe this is actually more about making these kids relatable, not just to the kids of today, but maybe even more so the kids that grew up with these films originally.
Well, honestly, it could act as a bridge to both. I mean,
well, that's the real genius of it. Yeah.
I kind of see this as like a lot of Star Wars dads are going to watch this with their kids.
Is that still allowed? Really, is that okay? All right. Well, good. I'm in. Yeah. There was. Here's the thing about this show that has struck me is that everything felt just very normal. There wasn't anything that was just off or weird. You didn't hear any agendas being talked about behind the scenes. It was all about telling the story and telling the story from the point of view of these movies that a lot of the Star Wars generation grew up with beyond Star Wars. And with other shows, it just seemed like there was always just something off or weird. They had something to prove, or it was never about the thing. It was always about the creatives always made it about them and wanting to see themselves in this. And this just feels like they're just trying to tell a fun story that is going to appeal to a lot of people. It just feels very normal.
Yeah. I mean, I liked it. I mean, I don't really pay attention to a lot of the behind the scenes stuff most of the time these days, but like,
that's smart.
For instance, like The Acolyte was really interesting, but how do I put this? I cared more about the plot and the mystery rather than the characters and how it affected them.
Well, I cared much more about the speculation that we were having here on the after show, filling in these gaps, than I did what actually ended up being on the screen. It still made it enjoyable for me, but had I not been doing this, it would have been much less so.
Yeah. That being said, I still think it didn't deserve to be canceled. I mean, plenty of people loved that show, and everybody should have their Star Wars, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of reasons. I think that there was total instability and irresponsibility on the creative team of that show, and I think that had every bit as much to do with them not getting a second season. The cost that just went through the roof. Sort of the wacky narratives coming out of Headland in the promotional tour, and other cast members, and I just think that they were like, "Oh, we want to get a million miles away from this." But I think a lot of it had to do with the costs.
I think part of it is also we hype things way too much these days. I think.
You think Skeleton Crew has been hyped?
It's easy for us. I think it's actually been quite the opposite. Like,
right.
I mean, yeah, but I think that's gonna probably be better off. I mean, here's the thing: it's just like I don't expect every Star Wars thing to be perfect. I mean, I grew up in the '90s, where to me the expanded universe was, oh, I hope this book that I got this time isn't boring. I mean, I love Legends, that's what I grew up with, but it was very hit or miss.
Yeah.
I don't make excuses for it, and I don't put it on a pedestal. It is what it is.
The worst thing that Star Wars can be is boring. I'd rather it be bad.
Yeah.
I'd rather it be exciting and bad than boring. That's one thing I'll give Acolyte. Acolyte did not bore me. I don't think it paid itself off and all of that, but I wasn't bored by it.
The only Disney Star Wars entry that's bored me was Rise of Skywalker. To be honest.
That movie didn't bore me.
Honestly, where I can't find any.
Yeah.
I couldn't find anything I could like about Rise of Skywalker. That's the only thing. Everything else I can at least enjoy on some level.
Yeah.
I mean, I could see why
what
most
about
people don't
Andor?
like
Andor to me,
Rebels.
and we don't want to get into why you didn't like Rise of Skywalker. But I'll tell you this, Andor to me, for as much as I like it, for as high of quality production I think it is, great acting, etc., it dragged at times. It seriously dragged at times. Andor did. When it finally found its legs about midway through the season, I think it really picked up. But that first half of the season, prior to Aldhani, which got a shout out in this second episode of Acolyte, Aldhani,
Skeleton Crew, not Acolyte.
What's that?
I said Skeleton Crew, not Acolyte.
Oh, did I say Acolyte?
Yeah.
See, here's the thing.
I blame David from Connecticut. You put Acolyte in your head.
A lot of people have been saying this to me as we were ramping up.
Gotta diverge.
Hey, I'm talking now, David. Enough. As we were ramping up to this show, Skeleton Crew, a lot of people were saying to me, hey, man, I got Star Wars burnout. I'm fatigued. They need to have more space between these shows and stuff. And so I have to,
Hmm.
say
Agreed.
maybe it does need to slow down a little bit. I feel like they are kind of blending together. I mean, I go to talk about Andor, I say Acolyte, 2 shows, 1 word, begins with A. I mean, it's like it gets confusing. And does it lose its appeal? Does it just become run of the mill when we get 3 series, 2 or 3 series a year? Does it just become kind of
I
run
think
of the mill?
it does, and I think Disney as a whole, not just with Star Wars, might be kind of like course correcting away from that. I mean, I believe we're already getting a few less Marvel movies a year, which is great.
Yeah, and we're only getting 2 shows in 2025, so I think that's already a step back from what we've
1
had in the
show.
past.
1
Okay.
show, Andor.
That's
Well, the end of
pretty
it, the end
reasonable.
of
Well, I
Skeleton
guess,
Crew.
yeah. I guess we're kind of straddling 2 years here.
Yeah. Hey, David, thanks a lot for the call. Appreciate it. Let's see who else we got here. Let's go to Patreon from Florida. We got Jordan. Hello, Jordan.
Hey, Chut, Jason and Jimmy, how are y'all doing tonight?
Chut,
Thank you so
chut.
much
Hey, Jordan.
for all that you do for us in the community.
You're
bet.
very welcome.
I love RFR. I love what y'all do. I love tuning in every week, and I love when y'all do these after shows. It is so awesome.
Thank
Well,
you.
that's very nice.
So,
I assume you have more to say.
One of the bigger things Sorry.
So say it.
One of the bigger things I want to talk about, kind of piggybacking on what y'all were talking about with this last caller, was like the normalcy of things.
Mm-hmm.
When I was watching Wim playing with his little action figures, it brought me back to when I was like 4 or 5 years old, playing with my Darth Vader, playing with my Luke, and it just struck a chord with me.
Right on the
I'll
bed.
be
I
so
mean, it
honest
was
with you.
just like, right on the bed covers. You can't get better than that.
Exactly. And then y'all were talking about the, I guess the action figure kind of perspective of things and what you can get from this. So the Black Series wave was coming out for it. I didn't order any of these figures, but as soon as I saw Brutus in episode 1, I logged online real quick and got my pre-order. I had to. He was just so cool.
Yeah, he's a great design, great throwback, a classic. Obviously, they've modernized it a bit, made it a little bit more. I think it's holding up to the HD. But I like all the designs on this series. I loved movies like Stand By Me and Goonies growing up. Loved Stranger Things. So this idea of this sort of group party, for you Lord of the Rings fans, the party of kids going out and having adventures. I'd be happy to have them on my shelf. So I'm looking forward to it. I think for the vintage collectors out there, you might get some 3 3/4 inch Skeleton Crew figures sometime around 2029. Maybe you'll be able to get the whole collection. But luckily, I think we got the whole crew coming out on the Black Series here in the next few months.
Yeah.
So-
Hopefully you guys get the Cantina when it comes out. Who knows? 2030 maybe. Who knows?
Yeah, I got it on order. We'll see. I got it on
I saw
order.
that. You do? You ordered that?
I
The
ordered the
Cantina?
Cantina. Yeah, mhm.
Yeah.
I did.
See, I kind of have buyer's remorse from that. I do. I'm like, why did I spend that on that? I mean, whatever.
Yeah.
But hey, I'm a collector, so I got bigger fish to fry.
Collectors got to collect.
Yeah.
Hey, Jordan,
Collectors
thanks a
gotta
lot for the
collect.
call, buddy. Appreciate it. And thanks for your Patreon support. That's also very, very much appreciated. All right, there goes Jordan. Chris. Oh, wait a minute. Here we go. We've got we got Rob. Rob actually was with Jimmy Mack in Chicago for the screening last night. Hey, Rob.
Robbo.
Hey, what's up, guys? How you doing?
Hey, Jimmy Mack says this thing really held up on the big screen. What say you?
I would say him and I were talking about this, that the cinematography and everything, it did look good on the big screen. I don't have anything else to compare it to other than, seeing the movies, but it did look pretty good. The last movie I saw in theater was Rise of Skywalker in regards to Star Wars, but it did look good. It looked good, and I thought the opening scene was real cool with the pirates and, them piercing the hull of the ship they were boarded and all that stuff. I haven't been listening to the entire stream tonight, but I thought that the Wolfman was a standout looking, probably the coolest character that we saw on screen. I know you guys are action figure guru, so I look forward to hearing your review when you get that in 2-3 years.
Wolfman definitely
it looked good. Go ahead, sorry.
No. You go ahead. This is your call.
Oh, okay. I haven't been able to listen to everything you guys have been saying. I started listening to the stream when you were talking about putting implants in kids, so I don't really know what direction we're going at.
Well, hey, they promised people a free poster last night. Did you get your poster?
Jimmy, you want to answer that?
The answer is no. We got no poster. I saw a post from Baby Belushi, and he's got these souvenir tickets and posters. We didn't get jack, but we did get free concessions. We got free popcorn.
Oh, that's nice.
And we got a free soda. And I mean, that's like a $20 value when you go to the theaters now. It was a big popcorn, a big bag.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that. And thank you, Disney and Lucasfilm, for setting that up for fans. Obviously somebody had to foot the bill for all of that, and they did.
Right.
So, but I am disappointed we didn't get a poster, because every screening I've gone to, I got a poster, and I don't have a Skeleton Crew.
Yeah, normally
poster.
Jimmy Mac has it behind him on an easel,
Right.
the poster from the new show.
Well, Baby Belushi snagged a spare, so he's going to float it to me.
All right. So maybe by
he's a good guy.
The next after show or so, we'll have it'll be a fish. Mac will have it back there.
We'll see. We'll see.
All right, Rob. So was it worth going and seeing it on the big screen?
Well, it was free, so of course it was.
I guess so. Wait a minute. The whole thing was free?
The whole thing, yeah.
Was free. Oh, I didn't realize that. I thought, okay. So, wow. So you had literally nothing to lose.
The only thing that came out of my pocket last night was for Uber and then a drink before we got into the show. So, in my opinion, it was worth it.
Wow. Awesome. All right. Well, thanks for keeping that company.
Something that came up between me and Rob O is when they showed the hologram of the dancing acrobats from the holiday special. I pointed that out to Rob, and he didn't get it. And I came to find out Rob has never actually watched the holiday special. He said he tried to put it on, but couldn't watch it. And do you remember what I said to you, Rob?
That I probably need to be liquored up or some other substances in my system to get through the whole
maybe
hour
I said
or so.
But
the other thing that Max said to you, the other thing.
I said, you have to watch.
A rite of passage. You kind of got
It's a rite of passage. I said, like when some certain frats, when you pledge them, they brand you on the arm with their Greek letters. It's kind of like that. It's a painful experience that will stick with you for the rest of your life, the Star Wars Holiday Special. And I think every Star Wars fan has to put themselves through it to emerge from the other side a stronger, better Star Wars fan. Because what doesn't kill you only makes you stronger. And the Holiday Special does have the potential to actually take your life if you watch it. So
it's like the trials. I will say, and I said it earlier, and I was paraphrasing the great Steve Sansweet, and we talked to Steve many years ago about the Holiday Special, and he, I thought, put it better than anybody. He said, the biggest crime, the biggest sin that the Holiday Special commits is that it's just boring. And I thought, you know what, that really is. Because even the bad parts, that are somewhat exciting or kind of, fun to watch in their own way. But it slows. Mac, I was thinking, thanks, by the way, Robbo, appreciate it. Thanks, like I said, for keeping Mac company. You were talking about Andor, and that is something I noticed on the rewatch. It's quite a journey to get to that Aldani heist. I will say, there's
It's a slog.
It is a little bit. There's some good stuff, but some good character buildup. But yeah, they could have probably shaved a little time out of that.
Yeah, sitting around campfires and stuff. Come on,
Yeah.
It gets a little too just stretched out. You want to get to the action. You want to get to the stronger character moments. And all of that happens on the back half of the season, in my opinion.
Yeah. All right. Another call here. I'm sure that you've all are wondering what's on, what he thought of it. You know who I'm talking about. You know what time it is.
It's time for Blake's Take.
Hey, Kid Blake. Kid Blake joining us.
Hey, Chut.
Chut. Wow. Finally a Star Wars show made just for Kid Blake. Skeleton Crew. Right?
Yeah, I feel like the Skeleton Crew is actually like really good. I thought it was gonna be, feel like maybe Mando season 3. I liked Mando season 3 compared to everyone else. But the thing is that like it wasn't. I didn't think it'd be like this good as it is.
Yeah.
And it definitely like showed me that the first 2 episodes at least.
Okay,
are really
Blake,
good,
there
in
is
my opinion.
there's a lot of the fuel personally and what I'm seeing out there for the good vibes, the good feelings for this show is that it not only is Star Wars, but it reminds a lot of us of some of these great 80s coming of age movies that we saw as kids. That's not something that you can necessarily relate to. So what beyond this just being a new Star Wars show are you really liking about Skeleton Crew? Or does it just come down simply to the fact that it's just new Star Wars for you? And the heck with everything else.
Well, I like that it's new Star Wars. I'm happy with anything Star Wars, but this show, it feels like it's like targeted at me. It's like it's everything I basically do. Like in school, I'll draw, some Star Wars characters or lightsabers.
Nice.
Teacher will get on to me, But the thing is I actually make it to my tests. Unlike him.
Yeah, he overslept. He overslept because he stayed up reading comics and his old man wouldn't, read him the story.
Yeah. See, that did feel like, it felt like he was like angry. Like it felt weird when he was saying no. So when he was asking if he could read a story to him. Like that.
I think Mac hit it on the head. Jimmy.
Different.
Yeah, Jimmy was saying earlier that he's reading between the lines here that maybe the mom has passed away and that this could be kind of painful. The dad could still be in mourning. And of course, maybe he remembers his wife reading to Wim and it just hurts. It's too tough. And so it might come across as angry, but really it's just too hard for him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can understand that.
So do you go to like in your circle of friends, did any of the characters in this show remind you of your own pals?
Well, I do have a friend who reminds me of the blue one. I cannot remember his name.
Does he have a trunk? Does he have a snout? Neil.
Yeah. The elephant.
Yeah.
He's a big elephant in the room.
You have a buddy that reminds you of Neil, huh?
Yeah, it's basically he doesn't want to get in trouble for anything. He'll stay away from the trouble, but someone's got to bring him in to have a little bit of fun,
And is that you?
Not too much trouble. Yeah, that's me. You got to have something to do instead of just everything. You got to have a little step into it, a little bit of just something going on.
So which of the characters do you most relate to? Which character?
Wim.
Wim. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. He's drawing the Jedi in
he
school.
he plays with the Star Wars action figures. I do that.
Mhm.
He draws Star Wars characters. I
Mhm.
do that. He reads the Star Wars books. I do that. And then, it feels like it's like he is mainly me, because everything basically related to Star Wars, he's like a version of me, but I get to watch myself on TV basically.
That's pretty
And
cool. That's pretty cool.
Like mind blowing. It's like crazy because I was like, this kid is exactly like me. And that's what my dad was saying too, is that Wim reminds him a whole lot of me.
Yeah.
And-
Yeah, I can.
And then
He reminds us a lot of you. Definitely. I was thinking with Wim, I was thinking this is probably what Kid Blake is like.
Hey, what's the buzz like on
Yeah.
the playground at school? Did kids watch it last night? Did they report to you, hey, I saw that new Star Wars show? I assume you're like the Star Wars kid at school. So people talk to you about Star Wars.
I
Were
am
they
the
talking
Star Wars
Skeleton
kid,
Crew?
but no one talked about Skeleton Crew.
Nobody.
No one even
huh?
mentioned Skeleton Crew.
They
I don't
were all
think anyone
watching the.
knows about Skeleton Crew.
Oh no, they were all watching the Cleveland Browns game probably. Well, Monday Night Football. But
Yeah.
that's kind of funny too because usually people talk to me in my day job about the latest Star Wars, whatever it might be, and nobody stopped in today to talk about Skeleton Crew, and I was a little bummed about that. So hopefully it will catch on.
I was a pusher. I pushed it on people that I
You
worked with
pushed. You were
today.
pushing
I
it.
did.
Yeah.
I did. I was just, it was the first day back after the holidays. And so, you sit around the table, some meetings, and people are like, what'd you do on your holiday? I'm like, hey, did anybody watch the new Star Wars show on Disney Plus last night? It's great. Is that the
Nothing.
Jude Law one?
The Jude Law.
Hey,
Blake, they're asking in the chat, if you were on board that starship, would you have hit the green button like Wim did?
Oh yeah. Like if there's a flashing green button at you, there ain't no way you're not supposed to click it. It's like it wants you to click it. Or if it's a red button too. It's just flashing at you. You gotta click it.
what about, and of
It's
course,
like a
there's another
must-do.
button.
No, don't click it. But if you don't click it, then you just feel like you missed out on something the rest of the day. And then
Yeah,
if someone else clicks it, then you just feel like I missed an opportunity. Just click
That
the
was
button.
my click. Yes.
That's awesome. Well, hey, Blake, before we let you go, what are your thoughts about where this series might go? And what are some things that you're hoping that you see on this show before it hits its last episode, at least of this season?
I think that we're gonna find out that the dude in the cell, he's force sensitive, but he might not be a Jedi or a Sith or anything like that. But we're gonna figure out that Wim is force sensitive.
Oh.
Because just like how Anakin was obsessed with the Jedis and all this type of stuff. He knew about them when they came to him. And he's just like that Wim is. And basically it's like a 1-to-1 Anakin, basically. He's with his friends.
He wants
and
it so bad. He
them
wants
are
it so
racist.
bad. And the kids in school, they kind of laugh at him. He doesn't come out and say that he wants to be a Jedi. He wants to be somebody, I think he says, that they can come in and help people in need. And I think someone else throws out, like a Jedi or something. And everybody kind of, scoffs at him, at that idealism.
Yeah.
But that might happen to you someday, Blake, in class, if they say, Blake, Kid Blake, what do you want to be when you grow up? And you say a Jedi Knight. Well, in your case, a Sith Lord. We know that your saber runs red there, Blake. But it might get some scoffs from some of the kids.
I mean, they're used to it. I mean, they've had me they all know me. They've been with me since preschool. They should know that I come out and say some crazy, nerdy Star Wars things. Like, I'll quote Star Wars in the middle of class. Like today we were doing something on it was in reading class. I don't remember what it was, but we had to use like some sort of scenario from a movie, and everyone was choosing like sports movies or just romance movies, all this random stuff, and I was like, Empire Strikes Back, Darth Vader cuts off Luke's hand. That is what it should be. And I won for our thing, like for it to be put on the board. Because somehow I won it. And basically, that's how it is. You know, Star Wars, I'm trying to get it to take over in my school.
Tell you what, Blake, you are the best. You are
needs to be like the sport.
One of the very best ambassadors that Star Wars fandom has. So, and we love it. We love Blake's take. And bold prediction, Wim will be proven to be force sensitive by the end of this season of Skeleton Crew. I love it. I'm sure we'll be checking back in with you each and every week here, Blake. So have a great one, and we'll talk to you next time. Okay.
All right.
All right,
See
buddy.
you guys.
Take care.
See you,
All
kid,
right.
Blake.
Blake.
All
He does
right.
not disappoint. I knew he was going to be definitely somebody to pay attention to here with this particular series.
Yeah, his feedback is very valued.
Yes.
In the wake of this program debuting, you know, it's like, okay, let's just strip away all the pretense and all the adult BS and talk to kids who this show is largely targeting. But still, I don't feel like I'm watching a kid's show.
I don't
It's a
either.
family show, no doubt about it.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think it has, because listen, Lord knows, I've seen a lot of things being promoted as family-oriented entertainment. And you watch it, it's a bunch of childish nonsense.
Right.
This show actually is something for kids of all ages, I think. I really do. I just, and judging by the positive response we've had from our callers and within our analysis of the episode and things I've been seeing online and the tomatoes and everything, it seems like a lot of people are sort of on board with this show and even relishing the fact that we don't have to be so plugged in to the almost 50 years of Star Wars mythology to be able to decipher this thing. It's just there. It's just happening right in front of us. It's happening in a linear fashion. There are mysteries being presented, but not as like a cheesy gimmick mystery box kind of scenario. There's a history here, and it's important to us to find out things like the solution to the mystery of Adin. That's a big one. And these other emerging questions we get. Why do the kids have Old Republic credits?
Right.
And what's the value to the pirates and all of that? That's stuff that those blanks will eventually be filled in, but the entire story doesn't rely on these mysteries ever being solved. I mean, we could make it through the whole season and not know why Adin is behind a barrier.
And there's been no MacGuffin introduced yet, which is great. It's you can't get more basic than just wanting to go back home, wanting to find your way home. It's a classic story. I do want to get to some of our super chats. You guys are always very generous and want to make sure that we read these. This is from Media Rav. He says, was expecting to feel indifferent about this show, but I was wrong. It ticks every box for me for the same reasons I hated Ahsoka and Obi-Wan. Okay, so for the same reasons he hated those shows, Media Rav is saying he's digging this show.
No,
so
I'm trying to decipher what that means.
Almost like maybe it's the inverse, like maybe he felt like the other ones were trying too hard. Media Rav, if you're still in the chat, you can send us a follow-up with exactly what you mean. Mariana says, really enjoyed these first two episodes. It was a much-needed palate cleanser after the show that will not be named. Chut, J&J. I think you're talking about The Acolyte. We name all shows. I don't want to play those games. We don't say certain things. It's The Acolyte. We had a good time talking about The Acolyte each and every week. Calvin McPherson, appreciate it though, Mariana, always. Calvin McPherson says the low ground of the valley rose up and became the high ground. Then it had the power to fly your younglings into space. Never underestimate the power of the high ground. All right. Calvin, tying it back to some RFR memes. Tanya, great to be back. Cheers, boys. Thank you, Tanya. Tanya is always in the chat, and there's some fantastic regulars that we have in our chats. Like this guy, Eric from Phoenix, says can't join tonight, but what a fun first couple of episodes. Tons of fun, and looking forward to next week. Holiday special, Acrobats for the win. Yeah, that was. I don't know. They seemed like they were a little more higher def. These acrobats from the holiday special.
Well, the holiday
inspired.
special happened during the original trilogy timeline. This is many years after the original trilogy, like 10 years after. So hologram technology has improved. It's like 4K now.
It's
hologram.
They were watching that stuff in 4K.
I think it's so funny. We're celebrating a moment from the holiday special that has been traditionally fast forwarded past by a majority of viewers. Who actually sits there and watches that goofy acrobat dancing sequence? That's a fast forward moment.
Oh, it totally is a fast forward. I mean, but yeah.
I'd rather watch the commercials on the holiday special VHS than the dancing acrobats on the holiday special. But the reference here is fun.
It's very fun. It's if you know, you know. It's winking at the Star Wars fans, which is great. And it doesn't, distract or take away from anything. It's just very quick. Here's Jeff Holland. Love Jeff. He says, cheers, everyone. RFR Live after show goodness is back. And so is Jeff's infectious smile. When you look at his avatar, you just can't help but smile yourself. Whenever I see Jeff talking in our chat here.
He's a great guy.
Cookies says, I guess no Andor level monologues in this one. Still, I'm pleasantly surprised thus far. It was fun and character centric. No, Jim, I think we're not going to be getting any Luthen style monologues in this show. It's just not that type of show.
No, it's much more. It doesn't like slow down enough for something like that to happen.
No,
for starters, it does move along. I think the pacing felt right to me. It didn't feel too fast. It didn't feel too slow. It felt right on. Good pacing.
Agree with you there. I didn't think that it dragged at any point. I agree with you at the outset when you said that, they cut us off. That second episode felt like, right as it was really taken off that second episode. But, seemed like a natural place with the introduction of Jude Law. N64 Rescue says, I love RFR. I love Jason and Jimmy. So, we love you, N64 Rescue. Thanks for that.
Indeed.
Pepper Spray Johnny. Great show, guys. Two things. We got a main character, a Lobot. Second, we all know Jude Law is clearly the captain that got mutinied, right? Yes, absolutely. Also, toys aren't on pegs because of theft.
Just now they figured out, well, the best way to not have things stolen from the store is do not put things in the store. That'll show them.
Now, this is one, Jim, because this show is being aimed at families and kids might become interested. This is one that you would hope you would go see. You'd see the show and then go to your Target or your Walmart and see the action figures sitting there. This feels like the show where you really need that to happen.
And they were able to get the Jod action figure out as far as the 3 3/4 inch goes.
Yeah.
There's a few Black Series out there. I think the whole crew is out there now. And the reason why they were able to meet the premiere the way they did, at least with the Black Series figures, is because the show was pushed back a full year.
Yeah.
So I think that gave Hasbro and other licensees time to get their products done, approved, packaged, and shipped in time for the show to actually debut. That happens a few times with Star Wars. It happened with the Kenobi series, but for the most part, we don't start seeing the merch until like a year later.
Yeah.
And for like a show like The Acolyte, which a lot of people soured upon, I've seen so many social media posts saying, "Oh, my Acolyte figure showed up today," and they would say like, "Yay," with a question.
I relate to that. I got all mine. I
Never ordered any, which is odd. I do have the Master Saul, but or Soul or whatever his name is.
You found
I
him?
have-
You found him in the wild?
Yeah.
Oh, all right. I
Yeah,
see.
that's the
You
only
being in the Chicago market, I have to pre-order my stuff because I see nothing in my area. I still see Lando on the pegs. I see General Lando in the Black Series. So yeah, I've got to pre-order everything because I just never see anything good in the wild.
Lando is a character. However popular he may be and Billy D. Williams may be with fans, his merch doesn't sell for crap. And I've noticed this over the years. I've noticed this. Lando has
merch
been a
just
peg
doesn't sell.
warmer throughout his career. I don't know why.
Going back to that original Empire Strikes Back Lando.
Well, I mean, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know about the original. I wasn't really keeping track.
Well, there were
of,
two
what was
Landos in the vintage, and the one was part of the last that final wave, the General Lando figure. But up until then, you either had teeth or no teeth Lando.
Yeah,
from the
yeah.
Empire Strikes Back.
That was a variant. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Turtle Wars says RFR After Show kicks ass. Great to be back. Thank you, Turtle Wars. Appreciate that. Soka Style 48.99. The boundary field reminded me of the moon of Iago that we saw in Clone Wars.
Iago, that's
Iago. Sorry. Yeah, the boundary field reminded me of the moon of Iago we saw in Clone Wars, except that they were able to leave free of harm. Jimmy, good job saying Cal Kestis.
I didn't say his name today. I didn't say it.
What show are you watching? Soka Style?
Yeah, he might be listening to an older show.
Oh, okay.
Because I struggle. I say Cal Kestis, and then sometimes I say Cal Ketsis. And that's a problem. I've been working with it. I've been working with some professional people too on how to sort of exercise that from my my riffing on Star Wars.
Exercise the demons. All right. So yeah, the boundary field. I remember what was the Star Trek V when Kirk says, we'll never get beyond the Great Barrier. That was when they were searching for God. So I keep wanting to call this thing the Great Barrier, but it's not the Great Barrier.
The Final Frontier.
Yeah, Tanya back. She says, why did KB flip her visor down really quickly when that mean kid came by on his speeder bike? Oh, yeah, they had the bullies. I mean, I shouldn't say that they're bullies. We don't know that they are, but there was that confrontation, Jim, you might remember with the, there was a Rodian and there was like an older kid who, he kind of looks like a Ben Solo there. Look at that.
A little bit. A little bit. I think what I read on StarWars.com was that this kid's, the character's last name is Falfa. And that's supposed to be a shout out to Harrison Ford's character, Bob Falfa from American Graffiti, who was the guy who was, racing, drag racing, and sort of full of himself and arrogant. And
you might have heard of his uncle, Al Falfa.
I mean, yeah, so it's a Lucas thing, but still, I don't know why they have to dig into like George's other things to find inspiration from Star Wars when Star Wars is right in front of you. Pat yourself on the back because you named a character Bob Falfa. Listen, nobody cares. If you want inspiration for Star Wars, check out Star Wars. I don't understand this whole idea that everything now being produced for Star Wars has to be inspired by something else.
Yeah, it's weird.
Even if it's a George Lucas creation, it doesn't count if it's not Star Wars.
Yeah, it's weird. Why did she flip her visor down really quickly? To me, I think it was more like, she's shy. shy kid. She likes to hide behind that visor. You know, she's she's a preteen, a tween, whatever. And you know, I don't know. Maybe she kind of likes Falfa. I mean, they're very brave here in this Star Wars, where they're actually insinuating that characters might be, you know, might kind of like each other. You know, you were mentioning Neil kind of likes that other that girl in class, and so you know, yeah, you never know. I also like this whole they're kind of the dynamic with like when the girls were, you know, making the boys doing the shoveling, you know, doing the digging out. And you know, the boys were like, these girls are so dumb, and then the girls are like, these boys are so dumb. I like that they're playing with some of those kind of, you know, traditional girl versus boy dynamics. So it's fun to see, and again, very much harkens back to those classic stories. Just a few more here. We want to make sure we get through. You guys took the time and the money to send them. Here's Dustin Bagley. He says, do you think Jude Law is pretending to have the Force? The key looked like it was hanging from a string as it floated over. I didn't catch that.
I didn't
but
either.
Mac, you didn't really commit. What would you say if you had to put money on it right now? Is he the real McCoy? Is Jadna Nawood a real Force user, former Jedi Knight, turned pirate?
Well, I mean, what we could have seen there is a display of simple tricks and nonsense, as Han Solo would call it.
Yes.
And we saw in the Kenobi show that there are people who try to scam others into believing they're Jedi or they have Force abilities. We saw that with Camille Nanjiani's character in the Kenobi show. And that could be a recurring theme that we're seeing here with Jod. Just based on what we know of him at this point, I'm very skeptical about him being an actual Force user. I'm very skeptical about that. I mean, he was seen being a pirate, plundering a ship, if we are to assume that Jude Law was underneath that helmet in the opening shot, which most people do assume because that was Jude Law's voice, you know? I mean, it's got to be.
You don't have to take that into the RFR Sound Lab to prove that was Jude Law. Just
definitely not.
Just listen to it.
And also, it did establish why he's in the brig in the first place.
Right.
Is because there was a mutiny. He's the former pirate captain, and now he's in the brig because the Wolfman took over. Brutus. And
that was like the old Geraldo Al Capone's vaults. They blast open the what was going to be this huge treasure, and Wolfman walks in there, and all he's got is one stinking coin.
Yeah.
And what I read from that, Jim, was this wasn't the first time that Captain Silva possibly led them astray, because they committed murder, they committed all kinds of crimes, and lost their own men to take over that ship, and all they got was one measly coin. He's out of here.
And if he was a Jedi or a legit Force user, would he allow himself to be imprisoned and let his whole crew get taken over via mutiny? Wouldn't he just be able to say, I'm still in charge here, and just wave his hand, and the pirates would be like, oh yeah, you are in charge. Yeah. No, right. He's locked up. Yeah. What kind of competent Force user lets himself get locked up?
In the brig. Yeah.
In the brig. Arrgh.
Robbo, apparently I cut poor Robbo off. He says, you hung up on me before I got to say, Cerveza Cristal. All right. Anyone who isn't a Patreon members, go join today. $1 or $2 gets you in the door. Thanks, Robbo.
Thanks, Rob.
Appreciate the plug. That's why I gave you that cerveza, even when I'm a little under the weather myself. All right, Scott St. Louis says, Boston area Rebel Force fans are here. The barf. Together, enjoying the after show. Dave, Dan, and Scott loving the show, and we will be together for the after shows. Blue milk is flowing. Thanks, J&J. Oh, that reminds me. Jim, the blue milk. We saw another Star Wars breakfast table here.
We sure
with Wim. I don't know if there's a whole lot we can discern. Definitely blue milk.
Yeah, kind of grayish blue.
Yeah.
I think this is from a different kind of sea cow or wherever you get these things. but it looks like it's not your typical blue. It's kind of a grayish blue. I don't know.
What I
And there
love
was just
most
figures.
at the breakfast table here with Wim is he's got the toys sitting there. He's
Yeah.
got his ship. He's got his action figures. All that was missing was him reading the back of the cereal box.
Right.
That's what I needed.
Did Cyril do that when he was eating his cereal? And
No, I think his
Andor?
mom was always there.
Yeah,
tormenting him.
Looking forward to seeing that dynamic get explored a little bit more.
Oh, definitely. Sal B. Crumb says, just finished watching, loved it, and my favorite thing, my 11-year-old loved it. Lowest expectations might have the best result. There is something to be said for going in with, I wouldn't say low, but maybe moderate expectations. But I think in some ways, I feel like that doesn't give this show the credit that it's due. I don't think that I'm enjoying it because I had low expectations. I think at this stage, I'm enjoying it because it's just a fun show. It's a fun show. I don't know how many times George, his words to you when you asked him what brings him back to Star Wars again and again, and he says, because it's fun. And that was ringing through my head watching this show. It was just, it's fun. It's fun. And so, yeah, that's what I loved about this show. Dominique Garrett says, I call claimsies on the super chat. All right. $4 allows you to do that. Dominic. All right, let's take a couple more calls before we wrap things up, especially since we had that incident where we lost the switchboard. So we do have time for a few more. Let's go with Mike. Mike from Texas. He is a Patreon member. Hey,
Big
Mike.
Chut, fellas.
Chut.
Hey, Mike.
So before I get going, I just wanted to say, as far as the high ground thing, I do have something to say about that.
Okay.
It's not a greeting. It's not something that you say as goodbye. It's something that you say when you verbally best somebody. You no longer say mic drop. You say high ground.
I like it. It's canon.
I like it too. We could say that
There you
for
go.
you right now. High ground. You just high grounded the high ground question. Well
Yeah,
done.
you know it.
Well done. All right, what do you have to say about Skeleton Crew?
I loved it. I really liked it. It was really cool. I got an 11-year-old. He watched it with me. He said he liked it. It's a ton of fun. You know, it's something that we've been needing as a Star Wars community for a long time. And there are those that, you know, I've heard that don't dig it so much, and that's fine.
Yeah.
I like it. I guess I'm easy to please, though, because, I mean, I can find something that I like in just about everything. So,
You know, there's something to be said for my wife is like that with most movies. She has very little complaints about movies. She just says, you know, I'm pretty easy to entertain. I guess that's why she's married to me. But she says I'm pretty easy to entertain. She just, you know, she likes things for the escapism in that, and there's something to be said for that. So that's definitely not a knock. I think it's good to go in and look for it's positive to go in and look for the good of things.
and maybe it's just a Star Wars thing, though, because you're like, I argue with my wife about it a lot. Game of Thrones, I had a big problem with those last two seasons, man. That was hard.
Oh, you know, I never got into that show. I watched the first 2 episodes, and there were just too many names and too many characters. I was like, I'll never get through this. I'll just never get through this. So, anything else on Skeleton Crew?
Yeah, so I do have a prediction. Well, maybe less of a prediction and more of an explanation as to what's going on with this planet.
Yes.
Because as we know, they've got the Republic credits. They've kind of isolated. So I think about the time of the Phantom Menace, Count Dooku is going into the Jedi archives. He meant to delete Camino, and he fat-fingered it and hit Adam.
Oh, that Dooku. He can't type. He can't do it. But that doesn't explain
He's
the
all
barrier.
thumbs.
It doesn't explain the barrier.
True. It's more. It's
Yeah,
yes.
no,
It's more of an effort. No, it's a funny joke. But the barrier is definitely illustration of an effort to keep this planet isolated,
Right.
rather than just a slip of the fat thumb. So there's got to be something in it for somebody. But throwing out Dooku, throwing out that time period when there was all that going on, it definitely could have its origins in something like that. Watch Mac ends up being right, and this is all about cloning Palpatine somehow at the end of the day.
Just wait. Just wait. They're all Sith
All
acolytes, including
right.
the little elephant boy.
I don't know if you guys talked about it either. There's that little pink butterfly thing
Yeah.
from Captain EO that was in the show.
Is that why they spent so much camera time on that? Because it was a Captain EO Easter egg in that little bird cage?
I can almost guarantee it.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that made Kyle Newman very
I had to show my
happy.
kids to give them contact.
And I think got more screen time than Billy D. Williams got in The Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah,
or
doubt.
Wedge for that matter. But it was created by George Lucas, so we got to give it plenty of screen time.
Right.
God forbid we actually spend that screen time on real Star Wars stuff.
Oh,
Captain EO, that opens the door wide open over there at Lucasfilm.
well, and then there was this guy from the Ewok movie. What was his name? We talked about it on RFR a couple of weeks ago. Teak?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Teak.
Teak.
Yeah.
Or at least a Teak. We don't know if it's the Teak.
He's a Teak.
But
kind of more effective though than the Teak we saw in the Ewok film, which was actually played by physically by a human being. This thing looks completely CGI generated, and it's pretty cool. It's kind of weird, but
yeah,
cool.
But
yeah,
definitely an Easter egg for
I think
sure,
it's-
like the
it's
Captain EO.
It was kind of strung out looking.
Yeah, this Teak, yeah, he's got some issues, but he recognized those Republic credits, that's for sure.
Yeah, he's a very malnourished
Oh,
Teak.
yeah, you got credit.
Yeah, looking with the sunken eyes.
Missed a few meals. And the milky sunken eyes. All right. Hey, Mike, thanks a lot. We want to get through a couple more calls. Appreciate it. Thanks for your Patreon your support there. Speaking of Patreon, let's go with Joe from Pennsylvania. Joe's also a Patreon supporter. Thank you, Joe.
Hey, cha-cha!
Cha-cha!
Your turn, Joe.
Help. I need you guys' help. All right.
He's breaking up. He's
So-
breaking in. All right, go ahead, Joe. I'm going to stop talking.
You hear me?
Yeah, we hear you.
All right. So, hold on. Let's try this. All right. So, we just watched the first episode, and
Yes.
it took me 24 hours to convince my wife to watch it with me. And the reason that she watched it with me was because I told her that Jude Law was going to be in it. All right. And we
Okay.
didn't have time to watch the second episode.
It's a fair reason.
For your show.
Oh,
We didn't have time to
Look
watch
at
it.
me like, there's no Jude Law in this show. And I need you to help me because now I'm in the doghouse. Because she's like, we're not watching this show. This is no Jude Law. This is no new Pope. This is no Jude Law walking around with a Speedo. There's just a bunch of goony kids running around.
all right. Well, Mrs. Joe, we assure you that Jude Law is indeed in the show to the extent that people at my day job were calling it, the Jude Law one, as in this is the Jude Law Star Wars show. So get her to watch the second episode. He shows up at the end for sure. And he technically was in the first one. Getting technical.
Technically.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's not a very good fighter.
I feel you, man. I can just imagine. You're like, no, honey, she's never wanted to watch Star Wars with you. But Jude Law's in this, and she loves Jude Law. She's like, all right. Listen. The guy just wears a mask. Oh, God.
Oh,
Anyway.
well.
All right, let's get down to the nitty gritty here.
Okay.
I got
All
a real
right.
question.
Lay it on
All
us.
right. So Max Rebo is like some elephant thing.
Yep.
this thing is almost exactly the same as Max Rebo, but they're going to make him a different species.
I have a theory. I don't think they knew. I think they always intended this to be a baby Max Rebo. I think they intended this to be a baby Max Rebo. They wrote it as a baby Max Rebo. And then once those old maquettes started showing up and people started pointing out about how Max Rebo's playing those keys with his toes, they went, oh, God, all right, well, we can't have that. That's gross.
I don't like that. That's revisionist stuff. Max Rebo never played the keyboards with his toes. He had arms with fingers. And I don't like that how they've twisted that around based on some weird concept maquette.
No,
the Max Rebo we see in Return of the Jedi is playing with his hands. I have the action figure to prove it.
No, the action figure's wrong.
No, the action figure's right.
No, the puppet. The puppet on the set of Return of the Jedi, he's playing with his feet.
Nope.
Yep.
Not true. Not in my canon. not in my canon.
Okay, well, maybe not in your canon. But in reality.
Weird fact that Pablo Hidalgo is fetishized into reality. Why do these people get access to the Lucasfilm archives and I don't? They don't know what they're doing over there.
Because you'd have wiped the memory banks to make it be that Max Rebo had feet and hands.
Yeah.
Like a bipedal.
That's right. That would have been first day on the job. That's what I would have done.
What about
put an end to this nonsense?
What about his trunk? Couldn't he play with his prehensile trunk?
Hey,
well,
this is a family show. This is a family show.
That's a very personal question. I don't feel comfortable verbalizing my thoughts on that. There's a lot you can do with the trunk. That's all I'm going to say.
All right,
you can do it.
On that note, we're going to say goodbye to Joe. All right, we got one more here. We're going to go eeny, meeny, miny, mo. How about Patreon VIP? That's as high level as you can get. This is Jeremy from Texas. Hey, Jeremy.
You were my brothers. Remember? I'm trying to get that going. No chut-chut?
Chut-chut?
No.
What show are you listening to, Jeremy?
No. Listen, I got to tell you, my favorite part of the whole thing, Jason, you mentioned some of this earlier, but when the ship started to take off and the kids were, going up into space, all I could think of in my head was, okay, we're probably going to have to burn the next episode, with the adults trying to figure out where the kids went. And when Wendell came around the corner and it was just clear as day, seeing the ship take off, I was super relieved because I felt like I could trust the storyteller. And there's something about that part that caught me off guard.
Yes. I was worried about the same thing. Yes, that we were going to have to lose an episode to the adults trying to figure everything out. And I think that would really slow things down. I do think because we see in the trailers that we see, I think it's Fern's mom hanging out with Wendell. At some point, they team up and are trying to figure out how to get the kids. Mac pointed out that there's a scene with Wendell on the bike. So I think they're going to figure back into it. But yeah, man, I was thinking the same thing. Oh, are we going to have episode 3 just be the adventures of Wendell in the safety droid office for 25 minutes?
The one of the things I wonder what's going to happen is, I wonder if on the next episode we're going to see some kids eating cereal with their blue milk, and the camera's going to slowly pan behind the back of the blue milk container, and their faces will be on the blue milk container, scaring the crap out of every kid on Earth.
That's funny. Missing kids on the blue milk.
I love it.
It has to happen.
That's awesome.
Anyway, hey, lovely guys, love the show.
Hey,
I'm all in, man. I'm all in. I told Jimmy Mac on the Q&A, I was all in, and it delivered. It delivered.
Yeah, we're all in. We're all in on this show, and we're going to be here every week as we as the series unfolds, and we're hoping for great things because I think it's off to a great start. So thanks a lot, Jeremy. Appreciate it very much. I think that is that's kind of a wrap for us here on this first episode of the Rebel Force Radio Skeleton Crew After Show. Lots of people to thank, but primarily all of you listening and watching and hanging out with us. The numbers were very consistent. This is what I love about our audience on these after shows is you see that number being very consistent, meaning you tune in and you're here with us the whole time, the whole couple of hours. That means so much more than just people. I don't care about the people that are just cruising YouTube and they find us, they listen to a couple seconds of it, and they're out the door. But you guys have been with us consistently from the top, and I just love that. Thank you all so much for hanging with us. A huge thanks to Tyler Page, our official call screener and program observer. Tyler, sorry about the technical difficulty we had, but as a true pro, you were able to rescreen all those calls, and we got through quite a few of them.
Yeah, it's easy when I write them all down. So
look at that. He's got the logbook. We talked and we covered a lot of things, but anything that jumped out at you in particular that we didn't talk much about tonight?
A lot of influences from Pirates of the Caribbean. I think maybe some from Finding Nemo, other Disney properties. I liked seeing, I think that was Luke killing the Rancor and his little iPad. And one of the callers mentioned Neil almost quoting Vader in that opening scene, or one of the opening scenes, when he says, "You should not have come." And he turns around.
Wow, of all characters to be paraphrasing the Dark Lord, Neil. So cute.
Yeah,
that's
I
cool.
love the in-universe references. So
I thought the Rancor in that, I think I may have something here, screenshot, but it looked like it was one of those Rancors that had the all the markings on it and the tattoos and stuff. What was that from Felucia? Looked like that was a Felucian Rancor. But hey, if it's in your head canon that it was Luke Skywalker and somehow the legend of Luke Skywalker made its way to Aten, I'm not going to convince you otherwise. But thanks, buddy. No, you're not feeling well. Appreciate you hanging with us, as always. All right. Get some rest. Tyler Page. Thanks, Tyler. All right. Jimmy Mack, final thoughts. Skeleton Crew, first 2 episodes in. About 5 more to go, I think. We're going to have a total of 7, or is it 8?
7, 6. 7 weeks. 8 episodes over 7 weeks. But, my final thoughts on this debut, these 2 premiere episodes, I really felt, I felt like it was, everybody says palate cleanser, and it was a nice departure from the self-loathing vibe of The Acolyte. Let's face it. It really was. It's fun. It's upbeat. It's well-paced. It doesn't get bogged down underneath its own weight. And I really like how the kids are the avatars for us in the audience, even having the kids come from a place similar to where we come from as far as planet Earth goes. A lot of people have been kind of gritting their teeth over the suburbs and space concept for Skeleton Crew, but hasn't just about every Star Wars environment we know has very earthbound origins? You know, you look at the original trilogy, Tatooine, desert. Where do you find desert? Planet Earth. Snow. Where do you find snow? Planet Earth. Where do you find bogs and swamps? You know, it's not just for Yoda. We have them here on planet Earth. And just like we have suburbs on planet Earth, they exist in the Star Wars universe. I don't think that's that big of a deal because I think it serves a purpose. It's not just randomly selected. It's done to kind of give us this vibe that these kids could be us. And they're in an odd place because they come from a place like the one we come from. So it makes them more relatable. I just got a few observations I made during the show that we didn't get to. The next door neighbor to Wim is named Mrs. Ick. She's the next door neighbor. She's an Ithorian hammerhead, and she has a frog dog as a pet. And I just wanted to point that out because it happened so fast. I don't think you noticed. But Mrs. Ick has a frog dog. The At Adden mystery. None of the pirates know At Adden. It's like a fable, a myth. SM-33 thought they might have met Adeline, which is a planet from Rebels where Chopper Base was and where the Bendu lived. They bring up Aldhani. Oh, yeah, you must be saying Aldhani. No, we know Aldhani is the planet where Andor led the infiltration team, the rebel infiltration team, on a mission to rob their Imperial base. And then they brought up a third planet, Alcor. And so I looked that up. And that's a new planet name reveal. So I guess they were working in a rule of threes. They had 2 Star Wars planets that kind of sounded similar to At Adden and Adeline and Aldhani, but they needed to create a third one. So they came up with Alcor. And I think I went to college with Alcor, and I've been wondering what he's been up to. Now I know. The safety droids looking for the source of the seismic disturbance on planet Adeline. They reveal that starships are not permitted to enter or leave, and breaching the barrier is a serious violation. That's what leads me to believe these people are legitimate isolationists, cutting themselves off from the rest of the galaxy. In episode 2, when we get to the spaceport is called Borgo. And Borgo first appeared in the old expanded universe in the Young Jedi Knights book, Shadow Academy, written by Kevin J. Anderson. And it's kind of fun to see whenever they revive places and people and things from the old expanded universe. It's always kind of fun as an old EU fan to see that stuff happen because it legitimizes the expanded universe, which has now been relegated to Legends status. So any way we can keep picking fruit off that tree and making it legit in the new canon is always welcome to me. On Borgo, we see a pirate puking. We see the pirate puke. Is that the first time for Star Wars? Unless you count the crate dragon from the Mandalorian show, I don't think we've ever seen anything puke on screen. I may be wrong. If I am, let me know. Show at rebelforceradio.com, because I got to get to the bottom of the real important stuff when it comes to Star Wars, like characters vomiting on screen. I really enjoyed the line the alien says to Vane, the Nikto pirate. He says to him when they're kind of arguing about the kids and the money and stuff, he says, "Back off or I'll pop your breathing sack." We're like, hey, that's a good one. Pop your breathing sack. Yeah, fun. The whole show was fun. I got to admit, I didn't really dig the soundtrack music. It's by Nick Giacchino, who is Michael Giacchino's son. I didn't dig it. It sounded too like a music box, very whimsical sounding, very light and feathery, had no balls. So that's, I want some balls in my Star Wars music. What, am I wrong for wanting balls? I want balls. All right, that's it. Who's not in this episode? Nute Gunray. Let's just stick with the classic. A bunch of names just ran through my head. What's my sign off gonna be? I'm just gonna stick with the old classic. Nute Gunray, not in this episode.
Nute's not there. As far as puking, there's a few things. They talked about Vernestra puking, but it didn't happen on screen.
No,
however, R2-D2 did get puked up by the creature on Dagobah, but that's more of a spit up. We didn't see bile. We didn't we didn't see actually
there was no
vomit.
No, there was no actual discharge of bodily fluids. He just like, it was almost like that thing on Dagobah got the Heimlich maneuver and he just coughed up the food. Now I want to see
Baby Yoda does puke. Carnegie 77 says Baby Yoda puked.
He sure does.
Winner.
After eating those blue cookies in season 2 of Mandalorian. Baby Yoda pukes. All
All
right,
right.
pirate. The pirates you're late to the party. Baby Yoda beats you to it.
Indeed.
All right.
Indeed.
Yeah. So, and we will be merchandising RFR barf bags soon, so you'll be able to order your own. They'll come in very handy when you listen to the after show. So I recommend everyone purchase them. You can get a pack of 10 for $100. Just go to rebelforceradio.com.
That's right. Check out the merch. All right. We will see you next week for more Rebel Force Radio. By the way, these will be traditionally coming to you on Wednesday nights. So we'll be doing
I
these-
wouldn't say there is no tradition. If you want to keep a track of the schedule for upcoming weeks, we posted it to rebelforceradio.com and our socials. But here it is for the next few weeks. It's going to be Wednesday, Thursday, Wednesday.
We got all the holidays in there. We're making room for all of that. But yeah, as Max said, you can go over to rebelforceradio.com and looks like that's been posted over there.
Wednesday, Thursday, Wednesday.
There we go. There it is.
So yeah, no more Tuesdays.
No more
Wednesday,
Tuesdays.
wait,
Will be Wednesdays.
Wednesday, Thursday, Wednesday.
Yeah.
Wait, are we missing one here? No, that's all of them, I guess.
We got tonight's
Okay, yeah.
Tuesday. Then we got Wednesday, Thursday, Wednesday. Simple.
There you go.
All right. That's it for us. Once again, thanks to Tyler. Thanks to all of you for hanging out with us. Always fun. We got many more episodes and a whole new chapter in the Star Wars saga to explore together. So wouldn't have it any other way. Thank you so much. We'll see you on the weekly Rebel Force Radio podcast this week, and then more after show next week. So the best way to catch all of that is the website, rebelforceradio.com, or follow us on our socials. So that's it for us. We're out of here. See you next time.
Jimmy Mack.
Oh, I should do that. For Rebel Force Radio, I'm Jason.
I'm Jimmy Mack.
And remember,
The Force will be with you, always.
Make it good.